This review is brought to you by Slim Jim. Hello everybody, Max Scoville here for Rev3 Games, and this week sees the release of Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, which is a game that's been in the works for quite some time, and some people thought it was going to be canceled at one point, and then other people thought it looked stupid from the beginning, and some people really want to play it. Is it any good? Does it make the cut? Does it make the cut? Because it's a sword joke? Just roll the clip. A lot of Metal Gear fans are going to make silly, huffy, upset noises about Revengeance replacing the series' stealth mechanics in favor of loud, fast-paced, cut shit up with a sword action, but that's dumb. Revengeance is Metal Gear in name only. It's a spin-off. If you approach it like a Metal Gear game, you're probably going to be disappointed. There are tons of familiar elements. There are cardboard boxes, there are geckos, there are exposition-heavy cutscenes.
Who saves the weak from the man who saves the weak?
And long codec Skype sessions, but overall Kojima's directorial flair is noticeably absent. This feels like a Platinum Games cover of a Metal Gear game. That being said, Revengeance does fit into the Metal Gear canon, sort of. It takes place after Metal Gear Solid 4, with Raiden reprising his role as a badass cyborg ninja, which is a nice change of pace from the whiny teenager he was in Metal Gear Solid 2, insisting on Skyping his stupid girlfriend every 10 minutes. That being said, Raiden's still no Snake, but at least this time he's grown some balls. Or had his existing balls cybernetically augmented, or whatever.
I think it's time for Jack to let her rip.
If you're not familiar with Metal Gear lore, that's okay, because the plot of Revengeance is pretty absurd and nonsensical, even by Metal Gear standards. Former child soldier and current cyborg ninja military contractor Raiden finds out that bad guys are kidnapping orphans from third world countries and turning them into cyborg child soldiers, or something like that. And as you might expect, this hits very close to home for Raiden, so he proceeds to kill everything in a 10-mile radius by cutting it into a pile of bloody exploding chunks. Get it? He's getting revenge with a vengeance. Revengeance. I know, it's still not a word. At a glance, Revengeance is a pretty straightforward hack-and-slash beat-em-up. You alternate between two attacks and string together combos to take out different enemies. However, Revengeance shakes things up by letting players go into free slice mode, which is basically a cross between Max Payne's bullet time mechanic and Fruit Ninja. You know, the part where you cut up the fruit. Experience points earned through the game can be used to unlock new moves and upgrade existing abilities, and each boss defeated will unlock extra martial arts weapons. There are also a variety of grenades, and two types of rocket launchers, which is sort of a hilarious weapon choice for a ninja, but for the most part this is a game about swordplay. Raiden can absorb energy from killed enemies when he practices Zandatsu, or cut and take. When enemies are sufficiently weakened, a red target will appear in free slice mode, and cutting it will trigger a short quicktime event that allows Raiden to rip out the sweet, sweet nanomachine pods inside. Nanomachines! It's what cyborgs crave! Backing things up, I'm sure a few people just heard record scratch noises when I said the words quicktime event. And yeah, Revengeance does have a few of them. Weakening certain enemies will trigger different on-screen cues, which will activate animations that are pretty cool at first, but eventually lose their charm by the end of the game. Some of the boss fights are punctuated with brief bouts of button tapping, but at no point did Revengeance ever drive me to vocally lament my utter hatred of quicktime events. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is a fun game. While other Metal Gear games in the series have kind of pushed the boundaries of storytelling, sometimes venturing more into movie territory than games, Revengeance seems very well aware of the fact that it is a video game, and in spite of some dark subject matter, it never really takes itself too seriously. At times, it's actually pretty hilarious, though it's kind of hard to tell when it's being so intentional. If you're a fan of destructible environments and props in a game, you won't be disappointed. My biggest complaint is with a camera that's hyperactive at best, and at worst, it can really actually mess up your game, especially in some of the boss fights. Other than that, there's really only one bad thing I have to say about Metal Gear Rising, and I know for a lot of people this is actually going to be a deal breaker. It is a very short game. Not counting any of the cutscenes, my initial playthrough clocked in at 4 hours and 38 minutes, which isn't that much time. Now, bear in mind, Revengeance is a game that's meant to be replayed. It's very arcadey, and each section of the game gives you a letter grade when you complete it, and for completists, the collectible dog tags present in previous Metal Gear games have returned in the form of ID-tagged hands to sever from enemies, and there are also a pile of VR missions that can be completed. There are easy, normal, and hard difficulties, so you might squeeze a little more playtime out of the game playing it with the challenge cranked up, but the fact remains that this is a $60 game that can be completed in under 5 hours. Game length is a topic of much debate. Last year there were complaints about Dishonored being too short, but that was a game that allowed for a ton of exploration and player choice. Revengeance is primarily a linear action game. There are sections that are made to be played stealthily, and taking that approach could make the game a bit longer, but it's still a short game. I don't want to spoil anything, but if you've been watching all the trailers, you've probably already seen almost all the bosses. The boss fights are a lot of fun, I just wish there were twice as many of them. Considering that Revengeance has probably been in the works for at least 5 years and was briefly cancelled entirely by Kojima Productions before being resurrected by Platinum Games, it could have had a lot more wrong with it than just being too short, as has been demonstrated by certain other games with lengthy developments. It's an extremely fun, solid, polished game, there just isn't enough of it to warrant a $60 price tag. For that, I give Metal Gear Rising Revengeance a 3 out of 5. So if you're a purist when it comes to Metal Gear, or a stickler for getting a lot of bang for your buck with your games, Revengeance might just rub you the wrong way. But if you're open to a ridiculously fun action game that is very silly, doesn't take itself too seriously, and lets you just cut everything in half, then Revengeance is definitely worth grabbing when it's on sale, or at the very least just renting for a weekend. I had a lot of fun with the game, I honestly just wish there was twice as much of it. I'm Max Scoville, you can find me on Twitter, and you can check out the rest of our gaming coverage right here on Rev3 Games. I'm gonna go cut. I don't have any cut puns to put here.